Are Welcome today, everyone, to Roundy's Rants, Raves, and Reviews. Today, I have a award-winning, best-selling author, Michele, with us, and I'm going to let her tell us about who she is and what she does. So, Michele, take it away.
Yes, so my last name is Pariza Wacek, so that's why she. So it's
No
easier.
different than I had her say it, guys.
Yeah. So I am a mystery writer, and what I write is cozy mysteries and psychological thrillers. And what's unique about me, I guess every author, but is all my books are related to each other. First of all, everything is clean. So all my books are clean. No, yeah, no sex, no. I had a little bit of, I should say, mild swearing in the Secrets of Redemption, but I've tamed that back in some of the books in that one, but I've tamed that back. So there's really mild swearing or zero swearing. And then also very little, no gore, very little violence, all of that. So that's what I write. But the other thing that makes me different is all of my books are interconnected. So I started with the Secrets of Redemption series. That's a 9-book complete series. It's a psychological thriller. It's got romance in it. It's got a little bit of what I call supernatural, what I call realistic supernatural. And what I mean by that is these are ghosts that you would see in real life. Like what a real life ghost haunting. These are not Stephen King ghosts. So big difference. so,
Yeah.
so, so that was a 9-book psychological thriller series. And then what I have is, and then the next thing is a cozy mystery that takes place in the 1990s, Charlie Kingsley. So she's a character in The Secrets of Redemption, and we have a whole series of cozy mysteries with her. And then I've got another spinoff, which is the Redemption Detective Agency, and this is a spinoff of this one. This also takes place in 1990s, and so everything is interconnected, and they all take place in Redemption or Riverview, Wisconsin. It's like southern Wisconsin. It's if you know where Redemption is, it's actually based off of Reedsburg, which is actually where I'm living right now, and it's which is in the Baraboo area or the Wisconsin Dells area, and then Riverview is actually based off of Madison, which is where I grew up.
Wow. So
Yes.
all the locations are like real to you. And
Yes. They are made up. And then there's a whole like haunted Redemption is a very haunted town, and Reedsburg isn't haunted at all. So let's make that clear. But what's inspired me for that was actually Black River Falls. So Black River Falls went through this crazy time, and this is real in the 1888, 1899, right in there for about 5 years, where there was just like the whole town seemed to go nuts, and it was arson and suicides and murders and violence. And for 5 years it was just like it was like somebody did this Black River Falls, I can't remember what they called it, but it was actually newspaper articles what was going on, and it's kind of insane. So not that I'm saying that, so I actually have a story behind it, but Redemption's kind of got this haunted crazy past that was inspired by Black River Falls, Wisconsin.
nothing's crazier than real life, is all
I
I can
know.
say, man. Sometimes reality just beats it all.
Exactly.
Very cool. So, question then, how did you get on this author journey? Where did you start writing? I read it's really early in life, so I want to hear from you. When did you start writing again?
So I started writing, I guess, as soon as I could start, as soon as I could read, which I was 3 years old. So when I was 3 years old, I wanted to tell stories so badly, but I couldn't, because what I would do is I would draw little pictures, and I called them happy face spiders. So I would have happy face spiders because usually my stories had a happy ending, or if they didn't, then they would be sad face spiders. They looked like suns. So it was a circle with like legs all around it, and then smiley faces. So what I would do is I would use the pictures to prompt me, and then I would so I would tell the story to my dad, and then I would go tell the story to my mom. And I was getting really frustrated because I knew I wasn't telling the story the same way, and I wanted to capture it somehow. But then I realized in books it was captured. So I taught myself to read when I was 3 years old using this book, Old Hat, New Hat. I had it memorized, and I would just sit there for hours until I finally figured out how to read. And then from there, I just read was reading constantly. And then I also was able to finally start writing my stories, which is what really drove me to do that.
That's exciting. Yeah, I had the same. issue. My mom read classics and read books to us, and so I did. But I was reading by like 4, and
Yeah.
then I would go to kindergarten, and they're like, she can't read, and I'm like, my mom's like, she's been reading since she was 4. And I'm like, well, she's not reading the words in the book. It's because I was writing my own stories because I was bored with the books. And so they said, you can write your own stories after you've read it to us once and showed us you can do
She's good to read.
it. That's the deal they had to make with me. So yeah, I understand the idea of like writing from like that. You beat me because I was like, hey, all right. So that's awesome. But they weren't the mysteries and thrillers. I'm interested because you went from these smiley little
Happy face
stories,
spiders, yes.
happy spider stories, but you're inspired by some very interesting things that are not happy spider stories. So
No,
some
I read, you know,
unexpected.
I read so much. So that was the thing. So I did always like mysteries. So like Trixie Belden was one that I read, and I did read some Nancy Drew, but you know, but I was, and I also read fantasy. I read like The Land of Oz and the Narnia books. So I read those too. I mean, I just read so much, but
Right, yeah.
yeah, when I stumbled upon, I know, then I stumbled upon this, I stumbled upon Stephen King, and the first book so my grandmother had given brought over a box of books that she was just getting. These are adult books, by the way. So I mean, I must have been 10. I mean, I wasn't, and so there was a box of adult books, and they just handed it to me. And so I started reading them, and The Shining was in there. So the thing is and I started and I read it. So I didn't even I remember I didn't even understand all of it. So there's a lot that so I actually went back when I was older and I read it again. And so yeah, and then I also got, Flowers in the Attic came out. I'm old Gen X. So somebody had a funny meme about that Gen X, that's why we're all messed up, because we came of age with Stephen King and Flowers in the Attic. And we all were reading those when we were really too young to be reading
We were
those.
too young to be reading a lot of things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that was, but I mean, so I've read, the thing is that I've read pretty much everything. So and some of the stuff that I read, like when I read the original Pinocchio, which is actually it's actually very disturbing in a lot of ways, and it really was a very strong morality story. And it was, they didn't really, it was, Disney really softened it. So when you actually read and the thing is again, this was at the time where I was at my grandmother's house, and my
I'm like the
family was,
instigator on this a lot, I think. Yeah.
I know, and that's the thing, and I was bored, so I found this book and I started reading it, and so, and I guess, and anyway, so that's how I got a lot of this stuff, finding this stuff. But yeah, and I like to always go back and find the actual real story. So I would find like Hans Christian Andersen, all that.
I love it. That was me too. I was like, I hate Disney's great and the Disneyfication of things though. I love going back to the original stories. Like, yeah, Hans Christian Andersen, those fairy tales are not happy
Yeah.
endings.
No, The Little Mermaid was nothing like the Disney version at
No,
all. It was actually a better story, but yeah.
yeah, no, and I love the Into the Woods, and I love directing that. I've like directed it 3 times and been in it once because it does that. It tells that original, not so happy, because that's real life, right? Real life is complicated. There's not happy endings ever after, and then it goes on to the next day, and what happens as a consequence of that. And so, yeah, I am a big fan of the original versions as well.
Yes.
When it comes
I
to
know. So yeah, I think that's where I got into the whole. Well, I mean, like I said, I've read pretty much everything, but I guess I always really liked the mystery. So I've always been driven by the mysteries, the whodunits, or psychological thrillers are kind of mysteries as well. I mean, because they're not action thrillers, which is different. So they've got that same sort of family secrets and kind of the darker side of this. So I think, and that's really the difference. So what I say, like with between my cozies and my psych thrillers, it really is. It's not, like I said, they're all clean. They're equally clean, so you don't have to worry about that. You're not going to get a Karen Slaughter book, but it's just, it has to do with the theme. So obviously, the psych thrillers would have darker themes than the cozies. The cozies, I don't always, not always perfect at it. Sometimes some little psych thrillers,
again.
little themes creep in, but I try to bat them away.
Go away, go away. Take it to
Yes,
another bit.
this is the wrong book. Wrong.
And it's true though, right? See, I grew up on the Nancy Drews. I for some reason I was like 7, 8 years old. I was reading all the Nancy Drews, but I'm not good at writing those, and that's not my thing. But I love reading them all and doing. And I wasn't into Stephen King so much. I like his short stories. There's something about his short
Oh
story
yeah.
that grabbed me, and his novels on but I love Alfred Hitchcock. I love the
Oh,
psycho.
I love Alfred Hitchcock too. Yes, that.
Yeah, I'm not into the horror kind of that, but the psychological part of things
Yes. And the
enthralls me.
pacing. And see, I think that's the whole thing with Stephen King too. He's a really good storyteller. So if you put aside, he's got some, I don't know if I think he writes himself into a corner. So I've read a lot of Stephen King, and I will say his endings are usually a little like
Right.
fantastical.
Yeah.
And I think he just like it. I mean that whole the whole ending of it is just strange. But the thing is that the build up, why that's so popular is that it was so creepy, and he just has such a way of pacing. And I think reading him so young has helped me because I've got that. I feel like I've got that pacing as well because I was able to internalize it reading it from him. So I mean he is a master storyteller, except for maybe the way he has his books.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's sometimes probably what killed it for me is it was so good. And then,
Yeah,
what?
I know, and that's
What?
I know I think it's the setup. I think that's part of the problem. The setup can be he does such a great job with the setup that it's like you can't. There's no good way to end it. It will all be anticlimactic,
Right. Yeah. Because it's still, and I think that's probably why I like the short stories so much because you don't get so
and they're
complicated.
tighter. Yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, they get right in, and yes,
Yeah, it does tell that. Very good. Very cool. So you've got these psychological thrillers and you've got these cozies, which is like almost an antithesis, but they're all from the same place. And
yeah.
I think that's so much fun. What is a theme or a message that you find yourself maybe pulling together through all of these, maybe that goes to your readers or that reaches at the heart of it all?
Family secrets. So a big one is family secrets because that's pretty much always. And also, things are never as they seem. Now, that's a big psych thriller trope, but it finds its that, and that's part of where it finds its way into the cozies. So, but yeah, I'm such a sucker for for family secrets, any kind of secret thing, anyways. Um, so that and the locked door. I also love the locked door trope as well. But so that's what. But I feel like that's probably one of the biggest. Things are never quite as they seem, and then obviously it's softened with. But the whole family secrets. Now, that to say, not every single book has that, but I think that is a theme that is people are never completely honest in any of these books. So they're the way the mysteries are always solved is usually by conversations and talking to people, less about actually finding clues. I remember that I actually had a review where somebody was like that, where they criticized one of the books because they said all she did was talk to people. She didn't actually go find any clues. And so I realized that yeah, that's so if you want somebody to go out and actually like find physical things, that's probably not. I'm not going to be your gal. But that whole like talking and finding out what's really going on and getting kind of to the deeper levels, that's what I'm better at.
I really enjoy those types of stories and books, even the one you actually just have people conversating and you're hearing and listening and the stories that come out. That's usually, I mean, a clue is a clue, but that's where like the deeper meaning comes in. And
Yeah.
yeah, I like that. Very cool. You talked about something, and I read this in your the things that your answers. The family secrets and this things aren't as they seem think almost goes to this idea that you're talking about with anxiety and worry and
Yeah.
how in our lives, we sometimes I think a lot of that goes together in some way. I'd love to have you share with that and see where this goes with this because
Oh, sure.
things that they never as they seem. How many times do we just put that face on and nobody knows
Right.
what's underneath? Kind of like you were talking about. And so if you'll share that with us, we can talk about
It's
that.
really interesting. I never put those two things together, but actually you're right. There is some similarity there. So I was always, it's funny because it's one of those things like your biggest strength is your biggest weakness, and so I think that's part of where the worries come from because, like when I was younger, I used to say like call the what if game, So and this is what you do with the story. It's like, well, what if what if your character wakes up and well, this is like one of my murder, it's like, what, she wakes up and she doesn't, her fiance is dead and she doesn't remember what happened, and the last thing she drank was Charlie's tea before she passed out. So what if that happened? Then where would you go? So then, well, what if this? So then you kind of, you play it out, and you play out all the, all the ways that it could happen. So you have the premise, and then you go from there. The problem is when you do that with worrying, obviously that can very quickly get out of hand. And that's what I would do. So I, and so I always had I was always horribly, worried child. Very, I was always very much worried about everything. And then I had also a lot of anxiety as well. Um, and things just it got worse and worse and worse until finally, in 2012, my mother was diagnosed with cancer, and then that was kind of the impetus that just pushed me over the edge, and that was what forced me to figure out another way to do this. And so what that so what I did was, is actually the Enneagram is what I came up with. And so the Enneagram had this whole thing in here about stopping the so in my case, okay, I would start to feel worried, and then I would start to play the what if game, because I would start to go down, and then I'd get to the end. Like, let's say and I remember doing this, like I'd get all the way to the end of, like, okay, well, what if this happens? And then I'd play it out, the whole bad thing. And then I would get to the end and it would be okay. And then I would actually start over, because I would want to make sure I didn't miss anything. And so there would be nights where I wouldn't sleep, and I'd be in this massive circle. So it's like, so what do you do? You're supposed to break that. So that's what I would do. So I would break that habit. I wouldn't let myself think. I wouldn't let myself even start. And then what happens? Well, then the feeling comes there, and the feeling, but you have to sit and breathe into that feeling. And when you first do this, I will say, especially if anxiety and worry is something that you struggle with, the first time you do that, you're going to feel like you're going to die. And you really are going to feel like you're going to die. You're going to feel like you can't breathe. You're going to feel like your heart is stopping. You're going to feel so tight. So in a way that's better, because then you can focus on breathing. You can focus on, so that's what I would do, is you just sit there, and so you don't think about the worry. You don't think, instead you just focus on your breath, and you focus on breathing in and breathing out, and breathing in and breathing out. And emotions just want to be felt. I mean, that's really all they are. It's the other thing. That's what I don't think people realize. When I went through this whole thing is when I realized this. So emotions just want to be felt. The problem is that we don't want to feel, because we don't want to feel grief. We don't want to feel anxiety.
Just for certain ones.
Yes. Yeah. Anger is fine. We don't mind feeling anger. The problem is anger can lead to some things too. And obviously we want to feel happy and joy, but the problem is also you can't just not feel grief and anxiety and feel the other ones. If you shut those off, you're going to shut all the emotions off. So you have to learn to sit in your emotions, whatever they are, and just feel them. And the thing is, with the anxiety and the worry, once you just start to feel them, they will go away, because that's all they want. They just want to be felt, and then they really will. They will actually go away. So if you do this enough, you'll stop not feeling the anxiety and the worry, and then you can control the mess in your head better. So, because you won't have that underlying emotions that's attached to it. But this works for grief too. You really should sit in your grief as well and feel it. I know it's awful. It's awful. It's the worst thing in the world. But there's really, the only way out is through. You have to do it. So I believe that so one of my beliefs is, because I feel like with emotions, we need to feel these emotions. And so the problem is a lot of people don't. They shove things down. They don't feel it. That makes them sick. They can't, and then they have trouble feeling all kinds of emotions. Fiction is a way to help, because now fiction creates a world where you might be sad because a character in there die, or maybe you'll be scared because if you read horror. So I do feel like that. Or, love, you want to feel romance. Obviously, that's a big one. But even then, those, like, people read love, suspenseful, this, that, and I do feel like the books that you gravitate to, or the ones in the moment, is because you need to feel it, and it creates a safe space, because obviously it's not, your life is fine. It's these characters that are impacting, not you. So it gives you a safe way to feel this. I mean, that is why I think horror movies and scary movies are so popular, and psych thrillers. I mean, they are super popular as a thriller, as a whole bit. And I think it's because feeling that fear it is close to the anxiety emotion. It allows people to a safe place to feel it.
Absolutely. As a teacher, I've been noticing all the time, there's been kids with anxiety and things like this.
Yes.
Well, so much more, they don't want to feel uncomfortable. So they
Yeah.
just shut it down. They don't want to feel the stress. And they don't realize that feeling that stress is actually a good thing, but it became a bad thing for them. And so that leads to the anxiety, leads to the worry. And I had the same problem especially when I was early married and had kids and they were walking to school. My brain was always like, what if this happened? What if this happened? What if this happens? And
Yes.
my
Yes.
husband would come home late and I'm like, okay, has he come? He hasn't called. There's something wrong. It's like everything bad would go through in my head and I would work myself up into such a state. And so, yeah, it's a real thing. So much of our world, we build up these things and we have to stop it. But I love the escape idea. And that's where I love theater because I can create this imaginary world and we can feel those feelings and I can
Yes.
explore all the possibilities without it being here.
Without you, yeah, without you living through your life burning down or the whatever's going on.
Right.
Exactly. And so I think it's a way to practice feeling that because if you can feel it, it really will go away. It's so the problem is when you try to shut that down. And that's I think anxiety, I think the worry, the actual not the anxiety part that you feel sick, but the actual like when your brain is like worried about this and that and this, and you keep thinking of the back. I think that's your way of trying to push it down. And that's what I found. Like when you shut that part off and just breathe into it, it happens really fast. I will say, okay, so the first time you do it, it may take a little bit, but but when I say a little bit, I'm talking like 10 or 15 minutes, which will feel like five
Forever.
hours,
Yeah.
but it's not that long. I mean, really, your emotions really, they just feel them and they will and let them go. And you let them get
Right.
easier.
That's been a practice I've been doing with my students before performances for forever too, is that they're all like stage fright and anxious. And I'm like, so we would just take 10 minutes and I'm always like, just breathe. That's literally the only thing will kill you is if you're not
Yeah,
breathing, guys.
breathe.
And so we would breathe and we would do breathing exercises and zoning in and calming and bringing ourselves into the present at the moment. It's amazing how that's helping with stage fright and stuff, but I'd never thought about all these other emotions and all these other things that it can really pull us into
Yeah,
as
just think of
well.
how shallow. I mean, that's such a good thing, how shallow breathing you are. And then so you're only using part of your lungs. So if that deep breathing is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. I was a respiratory therapist. He will agree.
Oh,
Breathing's good. Yeah.
well, I had asthma. So basically, after my mother died, I, I have terrible. I've always had allergies. Like I've
Mhm.
ever is for my entire life. But I ended up having getting really bad asthma, and it was interesting. It was after my mother died, and they say, I mean, like with Chinese medicine, they connect the lungs with grief. I don't know how true that is, but it really there
Works.
was something there. Yeah. So with the asthma and it was funny because I didn't want to take, I was in such denial and I didn't want to take prescription drugs. So like for years, people were getting, I mean, I was really bad. And so I finally went to like, you're talking about your husband and I went to him and I still remember him. So the doctor was just like, and he's like, and he said, you've got to take this. He put me on a steroid. It's like, and I said, I don't want to be on a steroid. So I'm arguing with him barely because I can't, it's so hard
Can't
for me to,
breathe. Yeah.
yeah. And he's like, you have to do it. And and he basically said, I don't, he says, you're one of you're really a puzzling case because my asthma was so bad but most of the people that he saw were much heavier than me, and my oxygen level is actually really good. So I just had to get that under control, and I'm not on. I haven't had any asthma, any problems. It took a couple of years. I got myself in such a state. It take a couple of years before I got myself out of it. So
Yeah. Yeah. That's human beings. We're crazy sometimes. Well, that's incredible that you've discovered these things and worked through them and found, say, a way to help do those things, explore that through your work and your novels and share that as you go through it to help us as readers to explore that in ourselves and to experience those things. I think that's an incredible gift to the rest of us in that way, that we can have that journey with you in those ways. I was reading your excerpt that you had shared with me and stuff, and I don't know. I'm so excited to read the rest of this. I'm gonna have to get the book now and be like, because I need to know what happens. But this aunt that she comes into,
yeah, Aunt Hildy.
I where did you come up with Aunt Tildy? Because Aunt Tildy is like, I already love her. I think she's amazing because she's just like, yeah, of course, that's all you take on your bus. And
Yeah.
that's not mine. My friend just gave it to me. Yeah, I have my partner. What? I'm like, what the heck's going on with this Aunt? So tell me, where are you getting some of your characters and stuff from to create these fun people?
I don't know. So, uh, so it's interesting. I wanted to write, and I am going to write this. I wanted to write kind of this mystery in the mail thing, and so I am gonna do these. I thought these like having the short mysteries that were mailed in chapters. I thought that would be a lot of fun. But,
Mhm.
and then at the time I was just writing the Charlie Kingsleys, and I thought, and anyways, I was having a whole conversation. It's like I didn't know if I could do it with just Charlie because they're written in first person. Pretty much all my books are. I actually only have one book that's third person, but and I thought Charlie Kingsley. So it didn't. I didn't really know if that was good. I mean, it's like I was having, anyways. I wasn't sure if that would work where I was going with that. Well, so then I thought, well, what if I come up with a spin-off? And what if I create like make it be like so there's actually four of these detectives you're going to meet detectives that are in that book. And then I have like two so three older so senior sleuths and then Emily. And then basically I thought, okay, well, if I'm going to do that, then I better bring one of, I should bring them in now. And so I was going to start writing Red Hot Murder. And so Tildy got introduced in Red Hot Murder as one of the characters. And so she just sort of showed up that way. So she was very flamboyant. And then it was interesting because then I was really struggling on writing the series because I had Tildy and then I have Mildred, who was in Murder Next Door. That was the third book. I brought her in, and then I had a third character, and I was having trouble because I couldn't figure out who was going to tell the story, who was going to be my character, and that was when I suddenly realized, oh, I mean, I went through this for this was a couple months. I was really struggling with this, and then I thought, well, wait a second. Maybe Aunt Tildy's got a niece who just shows up because her life implodes. As soon as I had Emily, the whole thing just came together really
Together. Wow. I have found that as an author, and I don't, there's other people I've talked to that like the characters just sometimes show up the way they are and tell us
fast.
what they are. And people are like, where did you get them? And where did they come from? And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
They just tell me who they are and they come and and
And here they are.
here they are. And when they
Charlie
stop talking
Kingsley
to me,
was
we're in
the yeah,
trouble.
I know. And Charlie Kingsley was the biggest one with that. So Charlie, in the Secrets of Redemption series, she's actually so this, I'm not saying any, I'm not, so she's actually the dead aunt that wills Becca her house. So she was dead at the beginning of this book. And Becca, and like I said, it's not paranormal. Becca has dreams with her. So anyways, so it was interesting because I had Charlie's name wrong, and at first she didn't have a name, and then her name was wrong, and then I got Charlie. I finally got the right. I finally got her name right, and she was just so insistent. And so I got these first three books done, and then she wanted me to write four and five, which were her prequel, her origin story. And then I thought I was done with Charlie, and then I end up writing this whole Cozy series, and she's dead in real. That's how they turned into the 1990s, which I've been delighted. I love writing in the 1990s, but that's why, because
Okay.
she was dead now. So I couldn't have a Cozy series that took place now. So I backed it, gave her 20 years ago or 30 years ago. So I was like,
I love characters and the stories. It's interesting how they come and everyone's got their own journey and the way they talk. But it seems like there's a common theme that I'm finding that sometimes characters just tell us their stories and we're just conduits sometimes
yeah,
for what's going on. And I don't know how it works or why it works that way, but I'm going with the flow on it because
yeah,
that's all I can do.
exactly.
Very cool. Well, this has been exciting and so much fun. You've lived in Prescott, Arizona, but you're now back in.
Yeah, so I grew up in Madison, Wisconsin, and then I spent almost 30 years living in Prescott, Arizona. And my parents, now my dad, they had like a summer. Well, I'm living in it now, so it's a lake house, and we would come for the last 15 years or so. We would come in the summer roughly there, and we would spend the summers here, like the family. So my sister would come with her kids, and it was great. So, and then as it just turned out, it just made sense for us to move back and live here. My dad's getting old. My in-laws are getting older. So having being closer, and they're in Wisconsin too, so just being closer to family. Because I will say that when my mother took 3 years to die of cancer, and living in Arizona is a long way away from Wisconsin. It's just
It is. I was
there's,
just say
there's
that
just
was a
no choice.
definite. Wisconsin is a little colder and a little
Well,
more
it's not even that. It's just the distance.
huge. It's like the,
Yeah. It's and that's the thing, and there's just no good way to get here. And so it was just really, really hard. And Prescott was great. It's in the mountains, but it's small. It's a retirement town. But the thing is, and it's about an hour and a half, 2 hours away from Phoenix, which is where the big airport is. So that's the thing. So getting anywhere, you've got the 2 hour drive to Phoenix and then the long airport. So, anyways,
yeah. So that's, and especially when you're trying to help take care of mom and visit and do, yeah, I'm only an hour away from my mom and I still feel like it's forever sometimes. And it's,
you know,
okay, we need something. Here we go. And yeah, or when my kids need me or something, and we're an hour away. We will figure it out. I couldn't imagine being that distance and try to help. So that's awesome that you're back home and
yeah,
getting to write about the place you know and love and
yeah.
create stories.
Well, and now I'm being reminded of all the things that I forgot about. Like, oh my gosh, I forgot about fog. I was just saying that today. Like, I mean, there is some fog in Arizona, but because we're in the
Nothing like that.
mountains, but not really because you need, water. There's not a lot of
Okay.
water.
A little drier. Yeah.
It's a little drier.
Well, you'll also get those lovely ice storms again and everything else. Yeah.
Yeah.
All the fun.
All the fun. Yes, I know. So it's certainly more, yes, it's more interesting weather.
Well, very cool. Well, tell us where we can find you and your book that's just coming out today, where we can get it, and any last words you'd like to share with our listeners today.
So no, well, this was a lot of fun. So thank you so much for having
Of
me. So
course. I love it. Yes.
the mystery, so the book that just came out today it's a Christmas it's the Mysterious Christmas Collection, and what it is it's, I've put in because it's we have Murder Before Christmas, and then we have so I have a book from I wrote two Christmas novellas, one Redemption Detective Agency and one Charlie Kingsley, and they're in the same one and they're related. So I have the characters I have the characters cross, like when they do those cross promote, like on the TV shows where they have
Right.
characters. So that's
Yeah.
what I did. I had them show up in each other's mystery, and then I also had the mysteries are lightly related to each other as well. So I did it that way, and yeah, and there was so much fun to write. And then I also, the other thing that was a lot of fun was my mother. So my mother loved to read, and she didn't really. She loved reading so much that she wouldn't let herself read when we were younger because she would lose. Like she actually read The Lord of the Rings when I was really small, and she completely lost track of me, and that scared her so much that she didn't read until we were older. She didn't have to watch us, but she loved mysteries, and she died in 2015, so that was really before the cozy craze. But oh my gosh, she would have loved cozy mysteries, and she loved quilting, and she loved cooking, and oh, she would have just been she would have been delighted with all of this. And so one of the things with this one, so Charlie Kingsley, she makes tea, custom teas. She's a tea maker, and then she bakes cookies. And so two cookie recipes. Our family cookie recipes growing up. My mother also loved Christmas, and she loved baking, even though she didn't love sweets very much. But I have the two Christmas cookies in there, and so I've Charlie Kingsley making those cookies, and one of the cookies is actually a part of the mystery. I was so excited I was able to do that. It's all very, it was.
It all just comes together.
It came together. It came together better than I ever would have thought. So yeah, so if you like culinary mysteries with, so the other one, the other one is not a culinary. It's got pet detectives. It's got a lot of pets and senior sleuths and cold cases and all of that. But they like to eat cookies, so we have a lot of eating.
You make them, they'll eat them. We're good.
Exactly. That's kind of what it turned into.
Best way to do it, right? I was going to say it's interesting that you're writing a culinary one because I remember also reading it. Now that you said that, you love to think that you can cook,
Yes, but I can't.
then you
Yeah.
write about it. I got it.
I know I'm really not a very good cook, but I love watching I do love watching the competitive cooking shows or baking shows. That's like one of my favorite things to do. But I can't, so that, then you could pretend in your head that you're,
I could totally do what they're doing there. Yeah, my husband actually, he's actually a good cook, and so he will actually watch those and go, "I'm going to go try that," and then he does. That's him. And I grew up cooking, but he does most of it nowadays too, so I understand that. But
my
yeah,
husband does most of it too, thank goodness.
very good. Well, where can we get your books? Are they on Amazon website? Where are we at?
Yes. So most of them are in Kindle Unlimited on Amazon, but I also do have a direct store that's mpwnovels.com, and I sell signed paperback and a lot in audios. So and I do have some ebooks on there, but yeah, in fact, the Mysterious Christmas collection I'm doing a special edition paperback only. You can't get the paperback on Amazon. You can only get it on my store. So I'm doing something a little different with that. So and I made it a little special this time. So yeah, so that's but that's how but if you but yeah, Kindle Unlimited and mpwnovels.com.
Yeah, I will put. I think you've given that to me in the form, and I'll make sure to put that in the links in the description here. So, you guys, if you want a good Christmas gift, if you want some fun cozies and some fun reading, and you're into psychological thrillers or some culinary mysteries, let's go check out Michele and support her and enjoy some of those things that way. Any last words that you have for our audience about life or anything else that you want to share?
I no, I just I'm so happy that I was able to do this, and it'll be great. I would be very honored if you would give it a try.
Thank you so much for being with us, Michele. Everyone, hey, don't worry, just breathe and pick up a book and enjoy
Yes,
some life. So thank you guys for joining us, and we'll check you next time on Roundy's Rants, Raves, and Reviews. Know your love. Thank you so much again, Michele.
thank you.